Alright, we're going to talk a little bit about the controller now. This is the BMS 10P controller, and it has integrated quality control features in it. And what it does is it has a menu screen here that kind of shows different parameters in the welder. And you have up, down, left, right arrows, enter, and a couple other buttons here that are used for special features. If you push the arrows, the right and left arrows, you'll see these different functions will start flashing. So to change one of these parameters, you move it to whatever one you want to work on, and then change, and then you use the up arrow or down arrow to change that parameter. Mode is the operational mode of the welder. The mode kind of puts the welder in different states. Operational mode means when you're going to weld a stud. If we let me move this over, move it up a little bit. Lift test mode let us test the lift function without actually welding. It also measures the time that the lift takes, so it's more of a setup mode. If I go up one more time, it gives me some options that have to do with the quality control system. We could add a measured value or record a measure value that we want to set on this machine. The PG is the program number, and this machine will have different programs you could set up and save all the variables in a program. It's kind of like a push button on your radio, you know, that takes it to the right station. Once you get all the different variables set up on a program and it works like you want it, you just save it. Then when you want to change from one stud to another or one material to another, you can just bring up the existing program and it'll recall all those things back and set the machine up like that. Stud, it lets you actually set this machine by the stud diameter. Volt is the voltage that the capacitors inside the machine are going to charge up to. RLT is the reload time, and this has to do with the loading system, how long it takes for a stud to be put into the machine. This is usually for automatic feeding systems, but for us, since we're dropping it down the tube in the front of the weld head, it kind of tells you how long that piston retracts and before it goes back down again. And then TL is our tolerance for our quality control system. This is like a percentage of the measured value. It looks to see if the weld is good or if the operator should be alert. 10 is the max on that one. So I just set it for a tolerance of 10%. So I'm going to put it back to operational mode. Here you can see the voltage that the machine is set to now. It's kind of being indicated. And B2N, this machine actually has two capacitor banks, bank 1 and bank 2, and this has both of them now engaged, but it has a selectable capacitor battery. For smaller studs, you would want the smaller capacitor battery. For larger studs, we use the full both batteries engaged at once. So let me weld a stud real quick here. Now if you look down at the machine, because this was a brand new program, it didn't have any values set to reference to. So we have the quality control enabled, and it's telling me that some of the measurements were out of tolerance, but it doesn't really have anything to compare them to. So if I hit enter, it gives me the option to store the values or do not store, and I'm going to store those values. So that's stored in the computer's memory inside the controller. And what we do is we'll weld some studs. If they're good welds and we want to use those as reference points, then we save them in the machine. It builds up a database of measurements, the voltage curves, the current curves, and a timing function. And then whenever it's operating, it takes the measured parameters that it got off the weld head or through the welding machine, compares it to the known reference values, and if they're more than that tolerance, it alerts the operator that check the machine, or there might be a problem with that weld. So basically we're comparing every weld to a set of reference values, and this is how you store the reference values in there. You know, you could, whenever a value is out of the tolerance, you have the option to store it. So then that'll add to the database, and it'll give you a more broader range of parameters to compare to. So basically that's, the more you would want to weld and store like 6 or 10 reference welds, then when you're in production you'll be comparing those reference welds to the weld that you just made. And if there is a problem, it'll alert the operator. The machine won't weld another stud until the operator comes down here and presses the enter button and then takes some sort of action. So that's basically the overview on the controller. There's a lot more to it, but I just wanted to show you real quick kind of how the controls work on this thing. So that's